We're going to chop real estate up into different segments for different shows, but today we're going to talk about appraisals, right? Home appraisals. And we're going to attack it from a different standpoint. So I actually wrote a post about this on my Instagram page a while back, if anybody follows me. So there was a recent study by the Bookings Institute and Gallup, which shows that homes in majority black neighborhoods are undervalued during the appraisal process by $48,000 per home, which amounts to $156 billion in cumulative losses nationwide. So what happens is that they're saying that black homes are valued at 23% lower than the white counterparts. So obviously how they do that is that they base it like the same home, right? So it has to be like 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in a black neighborhood,
Comparables.
3-bedroom. Yeah, exactly. Comparable. What we call in the real estate industry comparables, right? So they're not going to compare a 1-bedroom apartment to a mansion.
Right.
They compare the same exact home, same exact space, backyard, all of that stuff.
Yeah, within the same zip code, most times.
Right. So on average, the black home is valued at $48,000 less than the white home. So what happens is that now it affects people in a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah.
So now when you have less value when you sell your home, right? You're getting less money, all right? It lowers your net worth, right?
Yep.
It lowers your equity that you can borrow from because the value of the home is less. So it's a lot of negative effects for that, right? So some people will say, okay, well, the reason that the black homes and the black neighborhoods are lower than white neighborhoods is because black neighborhoods, unfortunately, a lot of times you have higher crime rates. It sometimes maybe a longer commute, bad schools. So all of that stuff plays a factor in the home value, right? And that's true. But studies showed that only accounts for actually half of the devaluation.
Yep.
So what happened to the other 78 billion, right? So that only accounted for 178 billion, but the other 78 billion is not accounted for in all those other factors. So this is what the study showed, not me. So the Booking Institute and the Gallup, they came to the conclusion that the other $78 billion in devaluation was solely due to one thing. You know what that one thing is?
Go ahead, man. Tell me.
Racism, right? They just said that they just valued black homes lower, right? When an appraiser comes, he just looks at a black home as being worth less than a white home. It's just, that's what it is. That's what it accounted for, right? So this is a troubling statistic, right? For a lot of different reasons. But the main reason is that, one of the things that, you always taught in America is that you do good, you buy a home, that's like the number one way to preserve wealth for your family, do the right things, and you can sell your home. But now, it's already discriminatory practices in actually buying a home, right? That's been proven. Yeah. And now, even if you do buy the home, it's devalued just because you live in it.
Yeah.
Right? So it was interesting when I wrote that story because a lot of people were going back and forth like, well, I don't believe that. It's like, a lot of people don't believe that racism is actually real.
It's a real thing.
But the thing about it is that it doesn't even affect people just in black neighborhoods. It can affect a black family living in a white neighborhood.
Oh,
right?
You don't say.
So as I said, a lot of times people were saying like, this is just made up. I don't believe it.
Yeah.
So now, being that we have a personal story to confirm it, you're going to go into your story.
Yeah, you know what? When you wrote the article, and I had no idea you were writing the article, I thought you were writing it about me. I honestly was like, yo, this guy just wrote my story. And I called you. I'm like, yo, you serious? And you're like, nah, this is like factual news. This is the evidence. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is really happening. So 2 years ago, almost about 2 years ago, I was in the process of buying a home, and that let's go back. I wasn't going to be in the process if it wasn't for you, and that was part of the Earn Your Leisure conversation. My family was about to move, and you were like, "Hey, why don't you go in and buy the home?" And I was like, I had not given any thought. I'm like, you know what? Maybe Rashad, maybe I should do this. So you sparked that in my mind. I'm like, all right, well, I presented the proposal to my family, and they were like, let's do this. And one of the things we had to do was get the house appraised. Now, my family bought the home in 2010, and the house was valued at $575,000. That's what it was valued at. We bought it for $525,000. That was the purchase price in 2010. Long story short, part of my family wanted to move to another area, so I came in and went in on a deal with my father, and we got the house. And the process of appraisal was an alarming one, because when the appraisal, I won't say his name, we're actually still we wrote a Consumer Reports review about it. The appraisal man came in and said that the house had devalued. Now, we have added things to the home, the typical things, obviously stainless steel furniture, stainless steel appliances, wood floors, all the things that you would add to, increase value in your home. And in the 8-year period, the house went from being purchased at $525,000 to now being $510,000.
So, all right. So you bought a house in New York.
In New York.
In the suburbs of New York, Westchester, which is anybody's not familiar. It's an pretty affluent neighborhood.
White Plains, New York.
Okay.
To be exact.
So you buy a house for $500 and how much?
$525,000.
2010.
Yeah.
7 years where there's no market correction. Real estate has only gone up in New York and across America as a whole, but definitely in New York.
And especially in this neighborhood.
Okay. You made improvements to the home. Mm-hmm. And he said that the home was devalued by $15,000?
$15,000, yeah. So like when you look at that, it's like, oh wait, that's kind of crazy. But then you look at the comparables, because that's part of the appraisal process too. So I looked at the comparables: 600, 650, 618. We had an offer on the table. Like my brother was going to sell the house before I stepped in, and the offer was for 600,000.
And you got appraised at
510,000.
And what do your neighbors look like?
My neighbors are from a different ethnic background.
What ethnic background are they from?
We have Hispanic neighbors. We have white neighbors. We have a few black neighbors down the street.
The majority of people in your neighborhood, what are they?
Are white. Majority of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the comparables in the neighborhood is 600,000.
600 plus at least. So the deal was time sensitive. So not only did I was like blown away by the number that came back, I knew that we had to react fast, because there was a lot of dominoes that were going to fall if we didn't get this done. So he came in and gave us a $510,000 appraisal. But on top of it, I had to pay him $800 to him to do that. So like not only was it injustice and a disservice, but I had to pay him out of my pocket to say thank you. He came in, he was here for maybe 10 minutes and left. And that was the last time I saw him, until I had to, get in contact with him. Like, how did this happen? And, his explanation was pretty much you don't have the size of a backyard as the comparables. So I was like, no, this is impossible. I literally drove around the neighborhood to the comparables. I'm like, no, this is no way. And being that the process of getting the house was time sensitive, I just had to say, you know what? I'm just going to have to take this one, and then we'll deal with this at a later time. My mortgage broker at the time was like, I don't believe this. This is crazy. But at a certain extent, you're at the bank's mercy, right? Like, they're the one that's approving you for the loan. They send their appraisal, the person to do the appraisal. So it's like, what do you do?
So at that point in time, he took $90,000
off the table
of wealth,
right,
from your family.
Pretty much, yeah.
With just his opinion.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like a lot of people don't get to this level to even see this type of discrimination, right? Because how many people are in the position to even get a home? You know what I mean? And it's like, I can tell this story, but it's like, who else can relate to this? Because like I said, when you wrote it, I was like, wait, you're writing my story. And you're like, no, this is happening everywhere. And I'm like, oh, now I have to take action. So I have taken some actions, and it's still.
You know what's crazy? Somebody said on my Instagram that she told the story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say it's true. So she said that she had a home appraised 3 times. Mm-hmm. And each time, let's say it was $300,000, roughly. I forget the number, but let's say $300,000. It was like solid $300,000 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
She had her white neighbor come for the 4th appraisal. She took down all the pictures, and the white neighbor answered the door. Long story short, the appraiser thought that it was the white neighbor's home. You know how much it was appraised for?
$400.
I think like $410, like $110,000 more.
Just on an opinion.
Just because he saw a white person.
Yeah.
It happens. Look,
I lived it, and I'm still living it. It's like, wow. And I try to get that message out, like, yo, this is happening. But like I said, like, who can relate to it? Like a lot of my peers are, are renting and they're not in the process of owning a home yet, and they will be. But it's like, oh, this is how is this possible? So like, what would be the answer to eliminate that? Like you know what I mean? Like, do we have to get our own independent appraiser? Yeah, but that independent appraiser doesn't necessarily work for the bank who's giving you the loan. So it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion on my Instagram page because then some appraisers came in. We was actually hoping to get somebody, an appraiser, to come in as a guest, but we wasn't able to. But yeah, I don't know. It's an unfortunate situation that just stuff like that people aren't really even thinking about, right? Like you hear about like the hardcore racism stuff, but little stuff like that. That's real wealth. So your situation was $90,000, right?
Right.
So now you can see how when you hear about 156 billion, you're like that's a large number, but how many people are like you? 90,000 here, 100,000 here,
right.
30,000.
It adds up.
It adds up.
Yeah.
Adds up.
Right. And like you said, like that's part of that generational wealth. Like,
and that's not even a black neighborhood.
Right. Right. It just was that, hey, they saw the family that was here, and this is what we're saying it is, and take it or leave it. And if you leave it, then you're not going to get this loan because we're not approving you for this loan.
Yep. Well, yeah. The game is rigged.